We have a huge NHL trade rumor. The Arizona Coyotes may actually be considering trading who was considered their cornerstone player, Jakob Chychrun. Many teams already placing calls, and the interest is plentiful around the NHL. We also have some other updates regarding their arena situation and some potential short-term venues they could be looking at, and really what do they have for options on the table. Plus, we also have some good news between the Blackhawks and Kyle Beach in that situation, some injury updates and waivers. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors to take a look at here today. Let's kick things off with some good news for a change. We actually have a settlement agreement between the Chicago Blackhawks and Kyle Beach. Of course, many of you are likely familiar with that situation where Kyle Beach came forward and had a lawsuit against the Blackhawks from basically an abuse scandal from a decade ago. They were attempted to be settling this out of court, and that agreement has finally been in place. Now, I could not see anything where any terms were released. Generally, those are kept private, and there's usually a situation where that's part of the conditions that Kyle would likely have had to agree to, is that he wouldn't be able to disclose exactly what the settlement was. So at least they have a form of compensation going his way. An agreement's been reached. Now they're going to be moving their efforts towards what they call John Doe number 2, because of course we don't know the name and identity of the other victim, which would have been at the time, a teenage victim from the state of Michigan that the Brad Aldrich, the video coach in question here, who was accused of doing these heinous crimes, had dealt with him in there. So that one, we don't know their name or identity. So John Doe 2 will also be having out-of-court settlement talks, and hopefully they'll come to a resolution here in the not-too-distant future as well. So nice to see some positive news there. Of course, the NHL continued to add players into COVID protocol today. Several other members, I think the Flames are up to like 17 players and staff now in COVID protocol. The Bruins added Patrice Bergeron. The Florida Panthers had a bunch tonight go into protocol as well, including, I think, Verhaeghe, Bennett. There was, I think, there were 5 players and 1 staff member. And of course, they just played last night against Ottawa. Ottawa's already had an outbreak situation this season, so are they going to be impacted again? This is really getting out of control. I mentioned in yesterday's video as well that there was a meeting last night between the head doctors that represent and consult with the NHL and the NHLPA, and they're having some expanded COVID protocols, at least for the next few weeks until the early part of January. Then things will be reassessed. So we're going to be going into daily testing again instead of every 3 days. They're also going to be doing more tighter rules when it comes to masking off the ice, limiting what players can do when they're on the road, those types of things as well. So they're kind of tightening things up. We're not going to be at the point like they were in the bubble before, but it's certainly closer to that than it has been recently. Ever since players were able to be vaccinated, the rules were pretty loose for the most part. They were living relatively normal outside of trying to be cautious and careful. And now this is a massive situation here with all kinds of players in COVID protocol at the present time, or have been here over the past week, and it's only likely going to get worse before it gets better. And we also had news today from the province of Ontario, which is not good news. So any pro sports teams, which would include in the NHL the Leafs and the Senators, but also impact the Toronto Raptors and the NBA, that they're only going to be permitted to go to 50% capacity. So obviously that's going to hurt ticket sales. It's going to hurt revenue. I don't think the teams are overly thrilled with it, but I guess it is what it is right now. The situation getting out of control. Like hopefully it never gets to the point that we end up with empty buildings again, because that would really hurt a lot of these teams' bottom lines, especially the smaller market teams like Ottawa, for example. So we'll see where this goes, but it's a situation that's getting rapidly out of control and will certainly impact the Olympics and everything else. Hard to say where things stand with the Olympics, because at the end of the day, it seems like it's going to be a player's choice, and we'll see where that situation goes. Now, when it comes to some news on the waiver wire today, we had Andreas Borgman of the Dallas Stars is on waivers for the purpose of contract termination. Of course, he's been in North America now for a few years. He's bounced around a little bit, started with the Maple Leafs, played a bit with Tampa and Dallas. He's only played in their minor league affiliate, and it sounds like he's heading back to play overseas. So his time in the NHL, net experiment for him, has finally come to a close. So I can't imagine we'll see a claim or anything like that. He'll be, he'll be cleared. Contract will be terminated, and he'll head on his merry way. Some injury updates for you as well. The Capitals are finally getting back Nicholas Backstrom. They announced today that he's going to be able to play tonight, so he's back. That's great news for them. Bad news in Montreal continues to pile up. Josh Anderson, they said, will be out an additional 8 weeks, dating back to just a few days ago. So he's going to basically be out, sounds like, until probably mid-February. So he might not even be back until well after with the Olympic break and all that, depending on how everything goes with the schedule. He's going to be out for some time. And they also had Christian Dvorak was just recently announced as being out indefinitely with a lower body injury. Now, of course, they don't probably know enough about the injury yet to really put a definitive timetable on it. So really, if you look at the Habs, they're completely decimated in the number of players that are out longer term. They're basically turning into a farm team, and they're certainly in the process of making sure that they finish low in the standings. Obviously, there seems to be some frustration building. I know even listening to the comments of Jeff Petrie about the systems and how they lack structure and everything like that after their last game and loss. You have to wonder what's happening there. I don't think Dominic Ducharme is going to be lasting too long as coach. I know Jeff Gorton had indicated before that he will play out the season, but it's pretty much a given that he will be let go at the end of the year. I don't think there's any doubting that at all. A few other quick injury updates as well. I know, one more big one is Alex Tuch is getting close to returning for the Buffalo Sabres. He's able to finally practice without a contact jersey, or non-contact jersey, on, so that means he's getting close. So that's great news there. He's been out all season. And of course, the counterpart he was traded for, Jack Eichel, continues to be skating and should be able to hopefully join the Golden Knights here soon. I believe the target was to have him join them around the end of the month, around basically the beginning of January. And I know he's likely interested to see if he can make it back in time to play for the Olympics as well. So that is all your injury updates. Before we talk about Jacob Chychrun and the big trade rumor of the day, we do need to pause for a moment and acknowledge our channel sponsor, Manscaped. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. And guess what? Hockey fans are buzzing because hockey is back. Want to know what else is buzzing? The Lawnmower 4.0 from our friends at Manscaped, who are the global leaders in male grooming, trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. I highly recommend the Performance Package 4.0, which includes their new state-of-the-art Lawnmower 4.0, as well as some other great features. The lawnmower itself has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction switch that can engage as a travel lock, gives you the ability to turn on an LED spotlight as well for a more precise shave. Also, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions before, Manscaped is about much more than just a trimmer. They have everything, all aspects covered in male grooming, including some great formulations like their brand new ultra premium body wash to keep you smelling great all day long. It's certainly a big hit here. I absolutely love it. They also have other exfoliators and gels to keep all aspects of your grooming needs covered. I highly recommend you check out manscaped.com. Use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using promo code TSH. Thanks very much for watching our promotional content. I do greatly appreciate it. Now, we got a pretty significant trade rumor today in the latest edition of the 32 Thoughts column here from Elliot Friedman, his latest blog. Even though they have a podcast and a segment on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday named after the same namesake here, this is the first that he has mentioned this big piece of information and one of his early thoughts in the article, and I'll link it in the pinned comment below so you can read it in case you want to see more details here. But essentially, he has information to suggest that the Coyotes are considering trading the player that just a few months back was deemed the cornerstone, the one untouchable piece on their roster that they wanted to hold on to and build around as they continue to go through this major teardown and rebuild that GM Bill Armstrong has begun orchestrating since he's taken over the reins here over the past number of months. Now, of course, Chychrun's 23 years old. He's a left shot defenseman, former first-round pick. He went to the NHL very quickly, so he's got a lot of experience already. 6'2", 210 pounds, and had a really solid, phenomenal breakout season last year offensively. Was getting a lot of love when it comes to Norris consideration and that kind of stuff, and he was really regarded as being one of the top defensemen in the entire NHL last year on a not-so-great team, so it was even more impressive. And like I said, of all the players on that roster, we know that the Coyotes have done a lot of moves throughout the offseason, and they're expected to sell off a bunch more here as they approach the NHL trade deadline. Like Phil Kessel's a big one, likely gets moved. You get Shane Gostisbehere's having certainly a comeback season, you could call it, after a couple of struggling years with the Flyers. He's certainly playing much better. He could be moved and getting some decent returns as well. There's basically, we were told by NHL insiders that everybody besides Chychrun is available. They're going to basically sell off anybody that they can to accumulate prospects and picks to build for the future. And now the one cornerstone is suddenly available. Now, he had a rotten start to his season. It wasn't that long ago. He was minus 20 and had 0 points. So that certainly was cause for concern. And Craig Morgan, who certainly covers the team closely as well, and besides Friedman, has talked about this as well, saying that, up until now, he hasn't had any information to suggest Chychrun was available. And he has also recently talked a lot about the arena situation, which I'll touch on here momentarily. But certainly this is big, big news. So since that poor start for Chychrun, he has performed better the last few weeks. He now has 7 points in 26 games. And it's believed that based on these reports, there's all kinds of teams that are suddenly interested in Chychrun's availability. I don't think we're at a point where the Coyotes are certainly making it known that they're shopping him. I don't think that's where things are at. I think this is more of a situation where they might have put out some feelers just to kind of gauge the market. They're probably getting calls because obviously they're near the bottom of the standings. And even though teams were told he was untouchable, they're still going to ask and try, especially when they see him struggling. They're probably wondering if the team might be having second thoughts and reconsidering. So why wouldn't you put a phone call in and say, hey, would you consider that now? And maybe the answer has changed. Now, when it comes to Friedman's information, he suggests that, yes, they'll consider it, but it is a massive asking price, and it might be tough for many teams to consider, so they may not end up doing this after all. It just means if somebody wants to meet the massive asking price, that they'll certainly consider the deal. Now, Dave Pagnotta of the fourthperiod.com, he had mentioned back a while back that he was going to take at least 2 first-round picks to get this deal done. Based on what Friedman's saying, it sounds like they may want 3 to 4 pieces. Like this is, a potential left shot cornerstone defenseman that you could build around. He's got a good contract. He has this year plus 3 more years at $4.6 million. Based on how he played last year, that's a very, very team-friendly contract to what he could potentially give you. You can get the physicality, you get the size, the strength, and those offensive skills that he produced and showed last year to go along with it. Would be a huge grab for just about any team in the league, but some of the top teams reportedly already showing interest and making those initial phone calls to kick some tires and see what it might take would be the Boston Bruins, the Edmonton Oilers, the Detroit Red Wings. We know that the New York Islanders were one of the first ones asking about him in the offseason. Lou was apparently all over it, but couldn't really get too far at all, considering what he had to do to move Nick Leddy. Jacob Chychrun would be the ideal replacement and a major piece that's missing on that Islanders roster right now. Certainly they need somebody who can play the minutes that Leddy did. They needed somebody who could be younger and more physical and move the puck and give you the offense. Like he would be perfect. Exactly what they need, and it's a big part why they're not playing well. And he's got the age that they could be, a big piece for the future. So I'm sure that Lou is likely revisiting that, but it's not going to be easy. Like the Islanders don't have a ton of high-end prospects to be thrown around here in trade. So you're looking at the Islanders. Like I said, the Bruins would be another one. Imagine him with Charlie McAvoy. Like what kind of top pair that would be. That would be ridiculous. And really set the Bruins up quite nicely to build out from the back end for sure. That would be a crazy thought, just, considering that. Not to mention Detroit, who already has some top young talent, like Maurice Seider is a big one, Lucas Raymond. They would be untouchable in any kind of trade, but they do have a lot of other interesting prospects that might be appealing to the Coyotes. The Devils are another team that was mentioned. Imagine him alongside Dougie Hamilton. That could be a top pair as well for many years to come. The Edmonton Oilers, obviously he could be a number 2 behind Darnell Nurse, and that would really make that left side even stronger. Considering where the Oilers are at, that's a huge potential pickup for them and what they could do. Look at Colorado. Would they consider maybe moving Samuel Girard, who's been rumored before? I mean, obviously Chychrun can give you a similar type of offensive numbers, possibly even better, but have the size and strength and physicality that Girard just can't give you. I mean, you might lose a little bit of that dynamic skating. I'd say Girard's the better skater, but still, like, that's a terrific addition that they were missing back there when they lost against Vegas in the last couple of playoff rounds. So certainly the Avalanche are another team to watch here when it comes to this. So Friedman goes on to say in his blog that it's just a situation we need to monitor. I mean, we've gone from untouchable to we'll think about it, big asking price, but will that price change? Have they made up their minds? Have they not? We'll see how things go. Maybe they see how he played this year. Now they're having second thoughts. And you have to wonder if any of this is really boils down to money at the end of the day. Like, this team is not in great shape. We had a big situation recently where they were served notice that they were going to be locked out of their arena if they didn't pay a whole bunch of overdue bills, which they have submitted payments for, but they didn't submit payment for everything. They're still behind. At least we don't have any new reports to suggest it's been paid on the arena lease payments that goes directly to the city of Glendale. They paid all the past due taxes and game day expenses that were incurred. This was dating back to last year, and the arena lease at Gila River Arena is expiring at the end of this year. They're trying to get a new arena in Tempe, but of course that's going to be a couple years away, even if it's successful, and that's not guaranteed at all. There's some issues there, some potential snags that they're trying to work through. Like, it's a big situation where there's a major talk about a real possibility about them having to relocate. We examined the situation not long ago where we talked about the possibility of them going to Houston. There was rumors linked through some different reporters that work for Forbes who had their information through the financial and banking side of things that there was talk that they were for sale with the intention of having them moved. And now that was all denied. We've done it right after we get the controversy about the unpaid bills, which has been paid. But then there's Katie Strings reported that there's also not like completely caught up on the arena lease. Like, they could run into more future issues here. Like, they need to be able to pay their bills on time and in advance for the rest of the season, or they could end up locked out again. Now, there's still some, in the latest article from Craig Morgan that I want to reference here, he says that there's still some beliefs around the league that the city of Glendale does have an agenda and that they ultimately would like to have the Coyotes commit to a long-term lease, and that's part of a ploy to give them play hardball here to make things so that they might be more likely to consider getting that. If they get the right deal, they might go back to Glendale and say, hey, like, we have a hard time finding anything else to work. Can we talk again about a long-term lease solution? But we know that things have not worked for them in Glendale. Gary Bettman's been on record to say that they'll stay in Arizona, but not in Glendale. Like, the arena is just not in a good, ideal spot to help them really promote the game, get the ticket sales up, and to really be successful where they are. But this Craig Morgan article that I'm referencing also evaluates all of the other locations they might be able to play in, and there's really not a lot of solutions besides the Coliseum. I mean, and that Coliseum is, from what I've read, isn't in the greatest of shape. I mean, it's a possibility. It could serve, I think, the maximum capacity is around 14,000. There's a few other arenas that's around 5,000-6,000. Craig Morgan asked the NHL if they could see themselves allowing the Coyotes to play in a venue that small, and Bill Daly said that they wouldn't completely rule it out. But his article basically goes on to say that there's really not a great solution here on a temporary basis to keep them playing in the Arizona state, like in anywhere near Phoenix. Like, so, what are they going to do? Like, there's been a lot of rumblings about Houston and Quebec City and Kansas City and all these other places they could go to. I don't see them going anywhere but Houston if they do leave the state of Arizona, just because it keeps them in the West. It's easier for divisional alignment and all that. Like, I know Quebec is ready. We have reports that Bettman and Daly are indeed meeting with the government of Quebec about a franchise in January, but that's not believed to be connected to the Coyotes situation. That's probably looking at an expansion. If they do expand, again, that's probably a longer distance out, but what we'll see, what will happen here. There's just a lot of uncertainty around this team, and as the uncertainty grows, you have to wonder if some of their decisions might be financially motivated, but only time will tell. At the end of the day, regardless of what the motivation is, a star 23-year-old stud defenseman is possibly up for grabs here, that they're open to moving for the right price, and all these teams are very, very interested and will push to try to get a deal done. Now, even like I said, Friedman said the price tag was really high, a massive price, but obviously it can't be that massive because he said there's still conversations going on, and he didn't, what the asking price was didn't scare these teams away. So clearly, it's a situation we need to monitor moving forward. Let me know where you think, if he is traded, Where is the best landing spot? Give me some mock trades down below. What do you think it's going to take? Personally, like the rumor is multiple first-round picks and maybe 3 to 4 assets total. So let me know your thoughts and we'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.